So Pitfalls and Penguins. Let's talk about this.
So, you wanted to run a 1 or 2 hour adventure or so.
I do.
For Good, myself, Morgan, Pause. Lucklin has expressed an interest in joining as well. So that would be cool. So I see that the rails have ended.
Yeah.
Do the rails only go north?
They go north and south.
Okay, so there's rails. Well, what I mean is, do they only extend north of the spawn? Or do you have a separate rail track that goes the other way?
We have a separate rail track that goes the other way.
Okay, cool.
That goes south.
Known as the other way. Yes. I'm on top of this.
Oh, those language skills.
Yes, I am quite the linguist.
We're both trying to hop on the same cube, and the map's not happy about that. So if you just keep running this direction, we'll hit the south, and then we can mine and make a home.
Will there be like a big ribbon of color of wool or whatever? No.
Nope, you'll get just a little notification in your chat that says you've reached
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way to get started really is to kind of know what kind of adventure you want to tell first, or what kind of story. The one that we did last weekend was one I'd kicked around the idea for a lot. I had actually been working on the idea for that little adventure for over a year and a half. I had the idea like, okay, I want to have, like, the mad scientist has all these front businesses that he set up labs inside of. Like, in the comic, there's one in a theme park. And, so I was
That's
like,
where the go-karts came from.
Well, yeah, and so I was like, well, where else could I build, or what else could he use as a front? And in Breaking Bad, they have that laser quest place, or like laser tag place that they're always saying you should use for your cooking location, but they never do. And anyway, so I was just thinking like, well, what other things would be cool, like that would be a great front for a insane business? And I decided, go-kart track. And so I started thinking like, oh, well, sometimes go-kart tracks have themes and stuff painted on the walls, and I just kind of went with it from there. But, like, in that particular case, it was a reconnaissance and recovery mission, because you're trying to find the corpses of the previous adventurers, and you're also trying to find out what the lab actually does. But, like, you could have a mission where the only thing that the group has to do is essentially survive. Like, for example, if they're all hanging out somewhere and somebody shows up that wants the group dead for some reason because they owe money or something, you know. Like, you know, you could have a pursuit through something. I don't know. So there's, like, dungeon crawling, which essentially what we did was a dungeon exploration.
I liked that.
But you could also just have an entire, like, city planned out and say, okay, guys, there's been a murder, and you guys are hired to investigate, you know, and have them look for clues. You could do murder mystery. You can do horror. You can do all sorts of, like, weird stuff. It doesn't have to be just dungeons.
So I noticed in our map there was pretty much you kept us on track. Like, we didn't get lost ever. Like, this is the path that you're going on.
That was because you told me you only had 2 hours. If you had 3 hours, I would have had a much more open-ended map. I originally had
but I liked the keeping on track because that helped me not go off track.
Well, yes and no.
Like, I felt like if we were turning left and right, it would have been like, we're lost. Where are we supposed to go? But at least this way I felt like I knew when we were getting close to the end.
Yeah, well, I was trying to ease you guys into the game by giving you essentially a direction that's pretty much obviously forward at any given time. But that's not a requirement at all.
That's probably better.
If it's your first time running a game, you might think it's easier. But yeah. So essentially, what you want to also do when you're creating an adventure is think of a scenario that would be interesting, whether or not the players were there, but that is made more interesting by the player's presence.
Okay.
So like, what? Let's say that you had let's say that the players were supposed to stop a bank robbery, right?
Okay.
You should have mapped out what the robber's actual bank robbing plan is, if everything goes right for them. You know what I mean? And then figure out how the players being there ruins that plan. You know, you get inside the heads of these enemy characters, so that way they seem real. Does that make sense?
So here's what I'm thinking in my mind. Can I tell you kind of like the plan that I have? And so like
Hmm.
yours was really funny because it was like robots and all kinds of like fantasy type stuff, which is funny, which is like I would want to do that.
Hmm.
But in my mind, we're talking about the malls, and we have a problem here with swarms of preteen people at the mall.
Okay.
Like we're talking hundreds of them. Like it's literally swarms of them at the
Just because
mall.
there's nothing else for them to do?
Yes. So like I'm thinking if you took that to an extreme and made a mall scenario where like it's like prepubescent people swarming the mall.
Okay.
Maybe there's like an NSYNC concert. Maybe we're flashing back to like 1999.
Okay, so
I
if
don't
there's
know.
an NSYNC concert there, there's supposed to be. Okay, so here's what you could do though. You could
Okay.
have, for example, the Pock Rats are hired to protect a band that's performing at the grand opening of this mall. And so
Okay.
they have to check the mall for any sort of, bombs or anything that might be dangerous, that sort of thing. And
Okay.
in addition, and then also like, keep the fans at bay. They have to be able to distinguish between people who are fans and people who might genuinely want to hurt the band. Because you might say, like, this particular band has made a big political statement recently about whatever and got a lot of people mad. So there's some real death threats. There's some people that just want to, like, freak out and, chase them everywhere. That sort of thing.
Okay. Okay.
That's just an example. You don't have to do that. I'm just thinking through it.
No, that sounds like a great idea. I think we should do that.
Yeah. And so,
That should be our story. So then I noticed that like when we're playing and we would do like an awareness check, right?
yeah.
Did you just come up with what people discovered on the fly, or did you have like a thing that was like from 1 to 4 this happens, from like 5 to 8 this happens, from 9 to 15 whatever, or did you just make all that up on the fly?
Okay, so I pretty much had a list of details about each thing.
Okay.
And a lot of those were mental lists, but like
Okay.
I had written down details about the rooms as well. And
Okay.
so I had all the information in my head about the room. Depending on how well people rolled, I decided how much of it to share with them,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
No, that
And
makes
so I
total
would
sense.
not tell you guys things that were important if you had rolled poorly.
I see what you're saying. I'm going to the top of this hill, by the way. I
Okay.
feel like we should king of the hill and make our
Wait,
castle on
which
top of this
hill?
hill.
This little tiny one here, or
No, here, look, I'm gonna stand on top of a tree. Where are you? Oh,
okay,
keep going
I see
forward.
you. Yeah. So
Seems like a great place to build
now,
a house.
another thing to do when you're brainstorming stuff like this is you want to create an idea funnel kind of early on. And
Okay.
so you might, instead of starting with one idea, you start. So we're in the front now.
We are?
Yeah.
What in Sam Hill?
We keep moving forward is the problem. We need to move back that way more. There's
Back
a
this
hill.
way?
Yeah, there's a hill back there we can go to.
Are we going the right direction?
Well, if we go, okay, so the edge of the front is about here or so. I think. Yeah, now I'm back in Sasquatch. Where I am is now Sasquatch. Where you were
Okay,
was
I see
Sasquatch
that.
front.
All right, let's go on top of that big hill over there.
So, the idea, the concept of an idea funnel is you start with many ideas, and then you kind of look at each of them kind of briefly, and decide
Okay.
what you like and dislike about them. So the mall is linear time-wise because the schedule of events for like first, the band might have a sign-in and you might have a thing with rabid fans there. But before the sign-in even starts, you have to check for traps and bombs and anything, threatening anybody who's waiting to
Okay.
ambush the band.
Can we make it magical, like a Harry Potter type thing, where like they can be wizards and stuff, so that it can be magical, or is that like too off the cuff?
No.
Is that
Like
too weird?
in the last game that I played, where we actually played as a music group, 2 of us were mages, so that we could generate the stage show on the fly, like the lights and the smoke and illusions and stuff like that.
Okay.
So in addition to us playing our instruments, we were also like creating the effects of the show.
Oh, okay.
So
That's good.
so it's not uncommon necessarily for musicians or some of them to also have some magic.
Okay.
But yeah, so the bad guys can also be like, keep in mind, like a guy who works at a like grocery store keeping the food cold is a mage. Like he has magic. That's how he keeps the food cold at the grocery store. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Got it.
most people in this, I would say not most, but like about a third to a quarter of people have some sort of magic that they use on a day-to-day basis that they personally cast.
Okay.
Like it's a skill, like a trade skill.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
And so let's see.
Do you make maps around like the people? So like we all know that Good is the seeing eye rabbit, right?
He's not actually a seeing eye rabbit.
No,
that was
he's
just a
not,
lie
but
that you told.
He's
But he
just
is a rabbit.
He is a rabbit.
Yeah.
But like, so if we made a pet store and that's one of the traps where they confuse him as an actual pet and they try to take
there
him.
are not pet rabbits in the setting. Nor are
There are not.
No, because there.
So that's not a trap that he could fall into.
No, well, no.
Okay.
That wouldn't happen. But like for example, though, there are still predators that try to eat rabbits, and so if somebody let a bunch of dogs or something out of a pet store, the dogs might chase him.
I got it. Okay.
If that makes
But
sense.
so do you make your maps like just general maps, or do you kind of make them around who you're playing for, like who you know is playing that time?
Well, it depends on the players. You want to have something that the players are going to enjoy. And so, in the case of the go-kart thing, I didn't have any particular races or classes or species or whatever in mind for the players, because there were going to be interesting traps and stuff that would come up no matter what.
Okay.
But I picked that one to use with your group because it seemed kind of goofy and fun, and it was an easy one to start out with because it was relatively linear.
Okay.
So, yeah, you want to kind of keep the skill and experience level of the group in mind, but and another thing that you can do, if you really wanted to personalize it, though, is have the story be about, like, one of the character's relatives or something is, like, how this got started. Like, for example, let's say that we had one that took place at a food festival. Like, there's a big international food festival at this big convention center or whatever. And one of Paws's, brother robots that, was from the same generation or whatever, because Paws is a deep fryer, as well as a robot, So a transforming, his brother, a transforming French fry cutter or something like that, is in trouble with the mob because he owes the mob a bunch of money. And so...
Are you making a gate around here?
I was just starting to build a wall. I thought we were building a building.
Oh, that's good. I'm
we...
just going to expand off the other side then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And so, like, for example, you could have... you could have something where it's like, okay, well, this is built around something we know about Paws's character. And so, yeah, anything that has interesting stuff for the characters to interact with, like having you guys able to mess around with, like, the arrow traps with the bleachers, like, that kind of gave it a little bit of texture, I guess.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're probably going to want glass at some point, but I'll go...
Making 2 doors.
Excellent plan. Just like that band, 2 doors down. 1 to go.
That's right. Hey, and now we do have 2 doors down. Look at that.
Excellent.
We're pros. We made a square house. We're so good at building.
Is it actually square?
Yeah, our house is actually square, yeah.
It looks rectangular.
Well, a square is a rectangle.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle's not a square.
Exactly, and our rectangle is not a square. Also, you have to put the doors on the outside.
Joe, I can do what I want. Why do you have to be so critical about it?
Wait,
Why?
how are we supposed to build collaboratively when we can't break each other's blocks?
Oh, you do front slash allow.
What?
Do front slash allow. Oh, wait, hold on. Joe Hill says front slash allow, and then Joe Hills says. And now you're added to my friends list. You can break my blocks.
Cool, and you're added to my friends list as well.
We're friends! Yay! This is a big moment for us, Joe.
I'm glad to hear it. So now I can fix your doors.
My doors weren't broken.
Yeah, they were on the wrong side.
Says you.
Says the world.
Anyway.
So, yeah, where was I? There's all sorts of stuff that you can do. So, like, anyway, we had one idea for a mall setting. Let's think of 2 other setting ideas to kind of just briefly examine how we might play those.
Okay. While we're talking about this, I'm just gonna let you know so you don't get scared. I'm gonna run down and get some sand.
Oh, that's fine. I was probably.
Don't get scared, Joe.
I'm so.
I will return.
I'm so alone. I keep hearing some sort of banging noise real quick. Let me check to make sure that nobody's, like, building furniture in my living room.
Nobody is building furniture in my living room.
Okay, I think it's in the apartment next door. That's fine.
Oh, got
I just don't normally hear anything out of them.
That's scary. You've never hear your neighbors, and then all of a sudden you hear banging.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is that?
What the heck? Well, this is a true fact. I used to work in an amusement park.
Okay.
So I have a lot of inside knowledge about amusement parks, which may come in handy for an adventure map such as this.
That would be great. Yeah, go ahead and draw from your knowledge wherever you can, because then, okay, the great thing about that is then if, hey, Awesome Wolf Boy, then if your players decide they want to go off the beaten track a little bit, you're not in big trouble because you're just like, oh, okay, well, so, like, for example, there's all sorts of stuff in amusement parks that people don't normally get to see, right?
Right.
Behind the scenes. So, if I was like, okay, I'm designing an amusement park story, and Paws is like, okay, well, let's just jump the barrier and run back here. I'd be like, okay, I guess there's this. I don't know. I'd make something up. But,
right. No, I actually know what happens behind the scenes.
So you could actually tell a really good amusement park story, and that might be, that's actually a really good option then. What else do you have behind-the-scenes knowledge about? That might be a good question to just ask in general.
I was a wedding planner for 5 years.
Okay, so you could have something set at a wedding, and you already know the timetable for the wedding.
I do.
Now, the great thing about adventures that have timetables, so there's kind of 2 types of linearity. There's spatial linearity. Like if you have a dungeon that the characters kind of can only go in one direction through, then that's spatial linearity. If you have the players able to move freely through an area, like, for example, at the mall we have the opening day concert. Well, there's a schedule for that concert, and that schedule is going to move forward no matter what the players do. And so they have to kind of, they'll be kind of moved along throughout that. And where if they're in the wrong place, stuff will still happen, but then people end up
miss it.
Yeah, they'll miss it, and like they'll hear screaming and have to run over there instead of being able to stop it.
Well, that's nice too because you can time it where, like, if you know that we have a 2-hour adventure, you can set it if you don't do this in 2 hours, then you don't.
Yeah, like you have 2 hours to find this neurotoxin or something like that that is going to be dispersed into the mall or something.
Got it. Okay.
You know, and so now you can do stuff that's completely freeform as well. I'm not trying to discourage you from that, but just when you're getting started off, it's a lot easier to, you know, do things that are linear in one way or another, just so you can focus on being imaginative in other ways. So having a geographically freeform amusement park, you could even use the map of the amusement park that you visited in the past or that you worked at before. But what you're going to want to do is make sure that whatever your any images you use, you want to make yourself. Like, don't if we want to be able to like post this on YouTube and stuff. So don't just go to their website and then use the map directly, but like draw a copy of the map.
Well, and it's a really big map, so I would just take a section of it.
Yeah, and you could just simplify that as you wanted. Yeah. That sort of thing. And so, yeah, you could simplify the amusement park map, and then say, okay, guys, here's your map of the park, and it's your job to do whatever. And what are some sorts of problems that amusement parks might call outside help on? Like, why would they hire somebody? Because, like, presumably they wouldn't just bring in random guys to, I don't know, sell popcorn because they already they have staff that sells popcorn. But
sometimes when there are, like, in amusement parks, they have capacity days where, like, they're allowed, you know, by fire code, you're allowed to have so many people in a park.
Yeah.
And amusement parks have projections for the entire season of how many people they think are going to be in the park that day, and they staff based on averages. And there are some days where you go so far above the average that you need extra help, and so they'll hire temporary people to come in and work just for that day, because they don't need, if they have an average of 1,000 employees, they may need 2,000 on days like the 4th of July, right? So they'll bring outside help in just for that day.
Okay, so theoretically, it could be one of those things where it's like, okay, so it's Indianapolis Day, and so the park is way above capacity. They need extra help to... I'm trying to think like how to turn this into like an adventure, but you could almost think of it kind of like Scooby-Doo wise, where like people are at the park enjoying themselves, and all of a sudden there's a ghost, and people are freaking out, and then... So, your group
they do hire security. Or for, like, Halloween, amusement parks hire people that they don't normally hire because they need people to walk around in costumes, which they don't normally have.
Ah, that makes sense. So, yeah, I'm just kind of trying to figure out, like, how to frame the windows here a little bit.
I'm going to try to I'm going to put sand in here.
Okay, great.
Did you put torches down? Oh, you did.
Yeah, I put some torches down, and it looks like we got some coal, too.
Yeah, I threw it in here. Awesome. Oh, look, you built a little basement.
Yeah, that's where I was getting the cobble out of.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, basically the structure of the windows here. So, let's see, I'm going to go ahead. Womp, womp. I'm going to need to build a ladder, or build some ladders for scaffolding purposes. But, okay, so amusement park sounds like a really good bet at this point. But, yeah, what are things that have gone wrong at the amusement park while you were there?
That I'm legally allowed to discuss?
Or could you give me an example? Or, okay, maybe stuff that didn't go wrong while you were there, but stuff that you've heard of going wrong at amusement parks.
Well, people get trapped on rides. That happens.
Oh, so you could have something where, yeah, they unveil this new ride that's like absolutely ludicrously large or something. It's it's the biggest roller coaster haunted house in the world. It's a new theme roller coaster, for example.
Okay.
And the president of the theme park gets trapped inside of it along with several, I don't know, congressmen or something because they're debuting it. And so, yeah, you guys the adventuring party is hired to go ahead and extract them or something. I don't know. I'm trying to think of just, like, dumb ideas. Because you want to be... Well, no, because you want to be kind of goofy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, to give...
Okay. Like, you're CIA and you have to go extract them?
Well, or you're... Well, the thing is, if they're using their existing characters, they've already got a... They wouldn't necessarily be CIA.
I see what you're saying.
But they'd be like, you got, like, so all you would tell the party is, okay, you've been hired to, as extra security detail for this councilman who's visiting this theme park for the grand opening. And you have, like, one or two little things that happens, but then he gets stuck in this massive cave-like roller coaster, and that's when, like, everything really starts going crazy. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
And so then you've got the basic map of the park, you got the roller coaster. Yeah. That's just kind of that's an example. You don't have to do anything I'm talking about in particular. I'm just kind of trying to help you get a sense of what you could do.
But you're the master at this, so I'm going to do what you tell me to do.
Well, don't do exactly what I tell you to do, because I want to play in this adventure, and I can't if you do exactly what I tell you.
Oh, because then you'll know too much.
Yes. That was why I was suggesting that you talk to Woat.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Because
I'll make some surprises. Don't you worry, Joe.
I'm glad, yeah.
I'm full of surprises. Ooh, I found a cave.
Yay.
Oh, it's a death cave.
What do you mean a death cave?
Like I literally almost just walked off into the edge and fell down like 15 blocks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Super classy. Okay.
So
we have the adventure. That you seem excited about that possibility.
Okay, so we have
direction I should head in.
Well, I was gonna say we have two setting ideas. We have the mall and we have the theme park. Now,
Let's do a theme park wedding.
Well, yeah, you could also you could do a theme park wedding with the idea that like somebody famous is getting married at a theme park, and the group has been hired for extra security, or the group is invited as guests because like you might say that Good used to go surfing with the guy who's having the big wedding.
He's a surfing bunny?
Yeah, he's a water mage, so he can like...
He was a bartender. No, he was he's going to be the bartender at the wedding.
Yeah, okay. He was hired to bartend at the wedding, and he kind of lied and said that you guys were all qualified too. Exactly. So, and this is good because it involves like the character's backgrounds and skills outside of just combat as part of the setup.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So you got the idea that Good is... Whoa, spider there. Does not want me to be alive.
I have lots of torches, by the way, so you don't have to make any more.
Okay, I'm busy trying not to also anger this Enderman.
That's good. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Remember the pro tip. Don't die.
Pro tip, don't die. Can I use /set home again?
Yes.
Great. So if Good is the bartender for the event, then and he something happens, and because that's the thing is I know I'm saying like and then something happens a lot, but like if nothing happens, you don't really have an adventure.
No, there have to be like events. Like in the one that we did with you, there were events that happened where we discovered the robot and we had to battle the alligators. Like we had things that happened.
Even if you stood still, you might have noticed that stuff kind of would start happening.
Oh yeah, if we stood still too long, you sent things to attack us.
Yeah, or to like provoke you toward action in some way.
Okay.
And so like always having an idea of how that would go down. Like having stuff like that thought of in advance is good.
Okay.
So you might say, okay, well, if the players wait too long here, well, we know that the murderer is going to run past because this is part of his escape route.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So yeah. And that's why I'm saying, like, you always want to have a plan of what the bad guy is thinking.
But should you have a plan at like specific times? Like, okay, 20 minutes in, action A will happen.
You can. You don't have to though. That's for
okay.
That can be overkill.
Okay.
But like not necessarily at 20 minutes in, but like shortly after this happens, this should happen. You know, just
I get what you're saying.
You don't have to keep it on a clock if it makes, if it would mess up the game, then don't rush it.
You have to have some leeway.
Yeah,
what you're saying.
you gotta be a little flexible here and there.
Okay.
But I think though, let's see what else.
I like the idea of the bartending thing. I like that.
I like that a lot too, because like I said, it gives Good's character something where he's like, everybody stand back, I'm the expert. And, you can also, you don't have to start the adventure with the thing that happening. You can set it up so it looks like one thing is going to be the problem. But then the real problem is something else, you know? So, all you guys know... So, for example, all the party knows at the beginning is that Good lied to get you guys work bartending because you haven't had a job for a little while. And so you have everybody roll to mix a few drinks, and you have characters come by and order drinks who might come up later in the adventure, right?
Okay.
So, and you have, so if there's somebody that's kind of snobby, you want to have that character treat the party differently than somebody who's not snobby or whatever. So, obviously. So that way you get to introduce kind of the mindset of the different people that will show up when everything goes to heck.
Okay. I got it.
And so that's a great opportunity there.
Okay.
And so in the meantime, you guys can all be or not you guys. In the meantime, the players can be botching horrible drink mixing rolls because other than Good, nobody knows how to do it.
I like that.
And
so you can make, instead of just an awareness check like, oh, you have to look for magic, your check could be roll to see like how good of a drink you make or what happens.
Exactly. Roll to mix this drink.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
And so that way everybody kind of, gets to warm up a little bit and meet the characters. They get to humorously try to mix drinks that they don't know how to make. Now, Good can also, since he is a skilled mixologist, he can actually assist people on rolls. So the way it works is if you're trying to do something and I'm able to help you in some way, you can add a +2 to the roll as an assist if I'm qualified to assist. So, for example, if I'm Good and you're Pause, and Pause is trying to mix a drink, if Good is just like giving him instructions while he's mixing the other drinks, if he's like, remember, Pause, do this, do that, then that can be a +2 to his drink mixing. And now the fun part is about this, you don't just have to roll. You don't just have to roll dice. You can have them figure out. So you can you can have somebody order the drink, and then say, "Okay, Pause. What bottles do you grab?" And then you have him roll to mix the drink with a positive or negative modifier on the roll, depending on whether or not he's even using the right materials. Because now
you're getting complicated.
Oh, okay. But the thing is, though, that rewards actual bartending knowledge. Because you can pull in.
So then it can grow his character for later.
Well,
is what you're saying.
Well, not just his character, but it's one of those things where Good actually, the reason that he wanted his character to be a bartender is because he actually knows stuff about bartending. Actually, that would be the way to do it. Is you don't make Morgan and Pause and everybody you don't ask them questions. You say, Good, if you tell him what to put in the drink, he gets a +2. And so you have a list of drinks already that you know what goes in them.
Okay.
Right? Before
like real drinks?
Real drinks. And so so that way Good has the opportunity to help the party by yelling out what they need to put in the drinks, to help. So he gets to show off the fact that he has real-world bartending knowledge. Okay. Which is fun for him.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I like this. I like where this is going.
And this is just like a mini game in the first few minutes. This isn't necessarily the whole adventure, but it gets everybody warmed up. It gets them kind of laughing, having some fun, and then once they kind of get a feel for the set and they get to meet, so for example, if they're bartending at a wedding, the groom might come up and seem nervous. And it's like, well, he seems really nervous. And then you have them roll awareness checks to see if they figure out, like, oh, okay, is it just, nerves about the wedding, or is there something more, Maybe he's gotten a death threat recently, It's like...
He's got a death threat.
Now, and the thing is, they wouldn't necessarily roll to figure out if they know he's gotten a death threat. But they would roll to notice, like, for example, if they notice that the groom seems really nervous... Could they notice that, like, the bride keeps looking suspiciously at one of the people in the wedding? Exactly. Or they might notice that the parents of the groom seem nervous as well. And so you have them roll awareness checks to kind of see what they pick up and what kind of feel they get from people. And so, let's see here. So we got plenty of glass now. I'm going to go ahead and start glassing some of this in. Okay. I just mined 21 ores of iron. Awesome. And a bunch of coal, so I'll bring all that back up. Sounds... I'm wasting glass already. Way to go, Joe. I know, I'm just the poorest placer of glass. Everybody's just like, back that glass up. Huh. So, let's see. So, yeah, and you, how many weddings did you have to attend as a wedding planner? Like dozens, hundreds? Hundreds. Yeah. So at least, I would say I was at least, we'll just go with 100. That's pretty even number. We'll go at least 100. Okay. So you could totally draw from that if people were like, hey, what kind of music is playing? Or what is the DJ doing right now? You would know at a real wedding, the DJ is at this point in the timeline getting set up, or at this point in the timeline is starting to announce people, or at this, you know what I mean? So, so you'd be able to answer questions based on your real world knowledge to create a better story here. Okay. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident that the wedding thing might be the way to go at this point. Okay. But like I said, this is a funnel. So we start off with a few ideas that we think are pretty good, and we figure out, okay, which ones of these do we want to use, immediately? You might shelve others, and others you might just throw out entirely. So it seems like all three of these are usable. Okay. So you can just go ahead and shelve the two that you don't like for the next time you run an adventure. Okay. And then start moving forward with the one you have. And with the one you have, you want to start figuring out timeline. You want to start figuring out the map and the layout and everything. You want to start figuring out who the characters are that are going to be there, that are going to be... Because, you know, at a wedding, you have, like, a lot of guests. And
Yes.
you've been to enough weddings that you can just make up details about most of the guests. If they're just... If you're just like, yeah, an old guy walks past, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, who is he? You think he's one of the uncles. It doesn't really matter. If it's just, you know, people that don't matter. But you got to know...
Okay.
You got to have stuff written down in advance about the people who do matter. Like, whoever's, you know... the cause of the problems or whatnot, you know?
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
So, the great thing about weddings, too, is there's a lot of expensive stuff for the party to break. So, you know,
Yes.
you might have ice sculptures. You're going to want to do this as, like, one of the most extravagant weddings you ever did. Like,
Okay.
can you describe the most extravagant wedding you ever did for me?
There have been a couple, but one of them was pretty awesome. One of them was an outside one,
Uh-huh.
and they did like this Arabian Nights themed. So they had like a hookah lounge, and they had like all this like really ornate food. We had to have all these like linens shipped over. They had special musicians come in and play like different kinds of music, and that was a neat one. There were like all these lights that were up on the ceiling to make it look very jungly and Indian. It was cool.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the sort of thing that you could draw from. You could think like, okay, the best weddings for mayhem are going to be probably outdoor weddings, I think, because there's more room for, you know, the petting zoo and everything.
Oh, God. Okay.
You see,
I've never seen a petting zoo at a wedding.
Well,
but
no,
sure.
there doesn't have to be a petting zoo, but you could. So, you take what you know about what you've seen at real weddings.
Ow!
Whoa.
Ow! Ow.
So if we
Can't
respawn,
spawn, but he can't spawn camp you
why not?
because it's against the rules.
Yeah, so you could, so for example, you have never been to a wedding with a petting zoo, but that's turning it up to 11. That's what we were talking about, was turning things up to 11. You know, I was
Okay.
thinking, like, there are go-kart tracks that, you know, have all sorts of crazy stuff in them, but could we just, you know, what could we put in there? Well, this mad scientist guy, he might put real lava in, or, like, an actually dangerous lava substitute, or whatever. He might have tanks with giant animatronic alligators rather than just paintings of alligators or something, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. And,
Okay.
and so I kind of just took something that was real and turned it up. So, for example, like, weddings have ice sculptures, right?
Yes.
So,
They have ice. You know what's really cool? This is just a side thing. They have
Yeah.
these thing called ice luges, where like it's a big ice sculpture, and basically what it is it's like a funnel that they pour a shot into it, and it gets really cold, and it comes all the way through the bottom.
okay, that is awesome.
It's so cool. I had one. It
Yeah,
was awesome.
that does sound pretty cool.
Super cool.
I really like the idea. Now, you got to remember, there are going to be water and ice mages in this
Okay.
setting.
Okay.
And so you could, for example, have ice sculptors. The ice sculptors at the wedding are actually mages.
Okay.
And, for example, they could actually manipulate the ice magically to have moving ice sculptures.
Okay.
Or, you know, or just stuff like that, where that's not necessarily going to be something that's like a point of contention. That's not the problem.
It just is awesome.
It's just something neat going on in the background in the setting.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, just kind of thinking about, like, cool stuff that you could do to make a wedding a little bit more crazy or a little bit more interesting, like, in that way would make
Okay.
sense. Does that make sense? And so, you know, you could do that sort of thing. You could have something where the ice mages whose job it is, you know, so you set it up as part of the description early on. Okay, there's ice mages that are, you know, manipulating the ice sculptures and entertaining the guests. There's, you know, a live band. There's fire mages who are doing all sorts of, like, creme brulee, like
Okay.
food on fire type of, you know, stuff like that.
Okay.
And, you know, it turns out that, like, for example, that the mages who are working for the food service company are actually, the food service company is a front for the mob. And I know I keep going back to the mob, but that's just kind of an easy...
You really love the mob.
Okay, when you're brainstorming, that's an easy brainstorm thing. Now, a better story, if I was actually telling the story, I would have figured out something better. But, like, when I'm brainstorming, they're my kind of, like, substitute go-to.
So, like, it could be, like, it could be a story where like the person who's getting married that we're bartending at is somebody like high up, right? Some politician or something,
Yeah, politician,
right?
a
And
rich
you
guy.
do an awareness check, and depending on how good you could say that like there's some kind of suspicious feeling going on with like that with the ice people, but they're gonna make these like ice golems that come to life and kidnap whoever the political person is.
And kidnapping works better than assassination in stories like this also, because then you can have the characters chase after the kidnappers.
Okay.
Now, if you're going to have them chase after the kidnappers, though, you're going to want to have a map ready of whatever the area is that you're going to have to chase them. So they
like through the like if they're in a banquet center in a hotel,
or if they're in
a
like botanical gardens or something like that. Outdoor stuff, like I said, could be easier. But yeah, if it was a banquet center in the hotel, there might be other people doing conventions in the hotel too that they have to run through.
Okay.
You know, and so
that could be funny, like a nudist convention.
Yeah, exactly. You can do all sorts of stuff. And it's pretty open-ended. You get to really determine what you want to do with it. And that's kind of the fun of the game, is that you can just make stuff up that suits the story you want to tell.
Okay.
So, yeah, and you could just start thinking, like, what would be funny things to have along the way? And some of that stuff the characters might interact with in ways that you're not expecting.
Okay.
So you just kind of, have them roll the best appropriate check for whatever they're trying to do, and then you just make up a result,
Okay.
So, like...
I got 2 stacks of glass for us.
Oh, awesome. Because, like, for example, if the party decides to just start harassing people, like, then bad things should probably start happening to the party. Now, they won't get paid if they just start harassing people. But, if somebody's a jerk to Good and Good decides to do something...
Or, like, if Good's a bartender and one of the characters comes up and we say, like, you do an awareness check and they're visibly, like, ridiculously drunk.
Yeah.
And if they don't realize that they're drunk, then something bad happens because they're feeding more alcohol to...
Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, because part of a bartender's job is to cut people off at weddings,
What happened? Did we lose all of our coal?
I put it in the thing.
There's none in there anymore.
In the furnace?
Well, there's 20 in one and 3 in another, but I had like a whole stack earlier.
Yeah, I guess we lost it then. Maybe that guy took it or something.
Sucks. Okay.
Whoops. So, yeah, anyway. Yeah, so for example, you could have a plot point, though, where if they don't notice that somebody's too drunk early on, then that guy, gets himself into trouble. And so that's the thing you got to remember, too, is that people in the background should be getting into trouble or causing problems or doing stuff as well. Like, if something happens at the wedding, for example, anybody who's well off, like there should be an actual security detail that's at the wedding, too, right? And so the reason that our heroes get involved is because the bad guys had some sort of plan to stop the security detail from being effective. Right?
Okay.
So, for example, let's say that they were going to poison the food that they gave the security detail. Now, the players might not know this, but let's say, for example, that Paws was trying to throw a glass in the air, and he, screws up and throws it into a tray of food, or throws it into a waiter carrying a tray of food to the security guys who are around. Although, I guess security doesn't eat at a wedding. But, or...
They do. Actually, they do.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Everyone who works at a wedding, you should feed them.
But they eat at the end. I'm trying to think, or something at the beginning. Or
got it. Well, it could be appetizers. They could be passing appetizers around at a wedding.
Yeah, okay. So
that happens.
So there's a plate of appetizers that's going out to being brought around to the security people. And Paws accidentally throws a glass of scotch into the waiter's face. The tray goes flying. Well, that waiter might not have been the one who poisoned that food. He might just know he's supposed to give it to the security people. So the security people don't end up getting poisoned. So then what happens?
Do you reveal that in the plot?
You wouldn't necessarily tell them at the time.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where you would have the depending on who saw this happen, like the people who are actually running the evil plot or whatever may or may not notice. And if they notice, then they've got to all of a sudden figure out a backup plan for knocking out security. And so their stealth plan might now have to be more obvious.
Can you have them, if they roll like in an awareness check and they don't do so good, can you have them accidentally poison someone?
Oh, who?
I don't know, like the security detail or whatever.
Oh, yeah, if you wanted to have the bad guys accidentally, or like, for example, if somebody, like, let's say that they refuse to serve somebody alcohol and that guy gets mad and just, like, grabs food off the nearest tray and is like, well, at least I'm still eating or whatever. You know, he might immediately start getting, or he might start getting sick or something. You know, because he's a frail old man, so it takes a lot less time for the poison to hit him than like a big, strong, young security guy.
Okay.
You know, so all of a sudden, this guy starts getting sick in front of the party, and Good, you know, might say, okay, well, Good has knowledge toxicology, so okay, well, let me look for poison. You know, or this is suspicious, let me look for poison, and then he could try and determine, okay, well, it was probably, you know, depending on how he rolled on his toxicology check, well, it was probably the thing he just ate, given his age and weight and whatnot. Anything.
Hey, just about the old man.
Yeah, the old man. So then it's one of those things where the party knows something's wrong, but they don't necessarily know. They could try and then say, okay, well, who is supposed to eat this? Who is this tray for? The waiter might or might not be in on the plan and might be like, I was told to bring it to the security guys, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then you have a different problem because it's like, well, something's going on, blah, blah, blah. And the security guys might be like, well, we'll handle it.
You were talking about how the security guy or the waiter's not even in on it, but
or he might be, and you could figure that out depending on what's more interesting to you, what story you want to tell, you know.
Okay, yeah.
And so, anyway, like any good bad guy, though, will have backup plans. So it's like, okay, we're going to poison the security guards, and if that doesn't work, we'll do this or that. Like, they might create a distraction, like have somebody show up at the gate in a really loud, in like, you know, have a bunch of guys in shotguns show up at the gate with a pickup truck and make a whole bunch of noise.
Okay.
Because nothing's going
to...
Yeah, because then all the security guards run over there. You know? Or something like that.
So can they try to, like, can you give the people who are playing the option of saving the political person? Or does it need to be like, there's no security left and it's your job?
Well, it's one of those things where hopefully they'll jump into action.
Okay.
And what you probably want to do is have a supervisory character who, like, whoever comes in and scolds Good.
Okay.
You know, like, probably the deal is that Good's friend, you know, needs an extra bartender, knows Good can do it. Good vouches for you, or for the party, or whatever. So that guy who is the supervisor will come by earlier and be like, okay, guys, you better not screw this up or you're not getting paid. Well, that guy could then be like, hey, you guys are part-time adventurers. Hey, you know, could you could you help? You know, that sort of thing. And then, you know, if Good is smart, he'll ask for more money. He'll say, sure, but our adventuring rates are a little bit higher than our bartending rates. You know, that sort of thing.
Will he know to do that?
Not necessarily, and it's just one of those things, though, where if he doesn't ask for the money, though, yeah, you don't have to give it to him. Although, like, if the people who run the place are grateful, you know, then they can still give some extra money to him anyway.
Okay.
But I'm just kind of saying, like, so you can have people that push the party toward helping, because even though the family that's throwing the wedding might not know that that the party is adventurers, they might know, or whoever's supervising you probably knows Good, and he would be, or she would be able to say, hey, Good, help out.
Okay.
You know, that sort of thing. So,
Okay, so that gives me a good idea. That gives me, like, some ideas of where I should be going. Now, when it comes to making the map, what specifically...
You want to
I mean, it doesn't have to be super complicated, right?
No, you saw how simple the map I made was.
Yeah, but you have InDesign, and that was fancy. I don't have InDesign.
Well, I used Illustrator. What do you use to draw normally?
Well, right now I'm on a new computer, so I use Paint, which is
not ideal.
Super pro. I'm a Paint pro.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, like, if you don't have Illustrator, you could still use, like, one thing that's easy to drag things around in, and I wouldn't use Publisher or Illustrator, or not Illustrator, PowerPoint.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
You can use the Google version of PowerPoint.
Okay.
And at that point, you don't even have to use screen sharing because we can just all have the document open and watch you modify it.
Okay. That'll work.
Yeah, so that's one option.
Okay.
So yeah, and then like I said, just draw general shapes that loosely describe what you're trying to show. You saw that I would just kind of say, okay, this over here, this is an alligator, or this is a tank, you know.
Yeah, it didn't actually have to look like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't draw all of like the moss and the stones that are in the tank and the kelp and everything, you know.
Okay.
It's just not the sort of thing that you have to do.
Okay.
So I feel like this is a good enough accomplishment for right now.
Okay.
I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about on the Pitfalls and Penguins front? Because if not, I don't want to drag this on indefinitely.
No, I think I have a good idea of what I should be doing. I think I'm good.
Okay, great. And you know how to get in touch with Woat.
I do.
To talk about details and stuff. Because for example, if you want to do the stats for the enemies and stuff, if you tell me, okay, I need to stat a whatever as an enemy, well then I know that character's an enemy and not a guest or a worker or whatever.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So he'll actually be able to help you do that without ruining any of the surprises for me. So,
awesome.
Great. So we've built our glass house in which we will not throw stones, but
no, we won't throw any kind of solid object.
Awesome. So yeah, people have been telling me they wanted to see more vanilla Minecraft type stuff. I know this is technically a modded server, but this is about as vanilla Minecraft a house as you can get.
I'm pretty sure.
So
yeah, and we have plugins, but it's not, our plugins are all custom written, so it's not like we,
Yeah. So cool. Well, I think I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for my audience then.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will drop the stream. I'm gonna send everyone over to do a little raid here.
Awesome.
We like to do that.
Well, I'll go ahead and do my sign off before you do your raid announcement, just so I can cut that out of the video easier.
Awesome.
So anyway, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee, joined by Aureylian from the YetiCraft server on the YetiCraft server. Until next time, y'all, keep adventuring.